Welcome to the dynamic learning hub of XLR at Andheri East. A prime spot conveniently located at just a 5-minute walk from LIC Andheri Metro. In our journey of over a decade, we have proudly trained over 2 lakh students. We've also been recognized by Deloitte, Silicon India, and other accreditation bodies. Experience learning like never before in our spacious and comfortable classrooms. With high-definition projectors and state-of-the-art acoustics in place, we ensure effective learning even to the farthest point in the room. The hybrid mode is a game changer as you can enjoy the benefits of a light classroom from the comfort of your home. Even if you happen to miss any classroom session, you can still attend the same session with the same trainer at the same time at your convenience, maintaining consistency in your learning progress. Wanna get started? Join us for a demo or career chat over a cup of coffee at our Andheri branch. XLR. We don't just train, we build careers.
Yes, so the collaboration with XLR was an excellent one. We conducted a Power BI workshop with Advanced Excel over a span of 3 days. The workshop was almost 12 hours long in total. Mr. Karthik, who was an amazing trainer, helped the students understand the concepts deeply. I am sure that the students will be able to apply these concepts in their careers as well as their daily lives.
The trainer, Mr. Karthik, was an excellent person where he explained in very detailed manner on how to give great insights using very complex data sets.
So it was a machine learning workshop. We learned a lot from the course and it was a great experience attending the workshop.
The trainer was very helpful. He had a hands-on approach with his teaching and it was fabulous.
This was a great experience for me. So I would absolutely love it if XLR and its team would come again to our campus and conduct more events like this.
It was a great course and it started from basics and took me to a great extent.
The experience of the workshop was really nice. The feedback from all the students was positive. They understood the concept. The workshop was also practical based with some questions. The experience with XLR was very smooth. They helped us in conducting the workshop smoothly right from the booking of the vendor and deciding the course till the distribution of certificates. In overall, this workshop was a success during our Technical Fest Atmos, and I thank XLR for being a part of it.
very much interested in learning digital marketing course for a very long period of time, but I don't get a proper platform. So later from our college, I get to know about XLR and I enrolled in XLR course. It was really good experience. Our course has been taken by Mayur sir, and he was very good teacher. He not only focusing on theory.
Good evening, all. Mohan sir, good evening.
Yeah, hi.
Sir, you can take over the class.
Yeah. Hi guys. Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are doing good. Can I get some responses in the chat? I got one response. Come on, guys. I just waiting for your responses. Make it fast. I think we are came to very close. That means like we'll be having up to Friday, I think, the sessions. Sure about it, I think. So far, you guys are there for all the sessions, right? I just want to understand that. So how is the sessions is are you guys able to understand practically how these things are going on the cloud, or we can say about like in DevOps platform, everything. If there is any concerns, you guys put it in the chat so that I'll be going to address in the next 3 days. Can I get some quick responses, please? Yes, I got one response. What about others? See, it is really going to help a lot, guys. Just make it fast so we can start. Guys, write a feedback, make it fast so that I can able to make the things better in next days. The chat box only, guys. I'm just I got a couple of responses. It's saying about like no doubt it clear, but what next namespace is fine. And next, somebody's writing like the teaching is absolutely fine. I'm very grateful to you. That's fine. See the concepts, whatever the XLR is providing, you guys with the free of cost. Really, absolutely, it is really wonderful, right? We are the creating awareness how the things will work on the real-time environment. But if you guys want to learn more about it, I can recommend you guys to join the XLR so that you guys can able to get the more what we can say about like the more knowledge. Also, you're going to get the placement assistance. That's what I can say that. But the fine. I'm just trying to start with the today's session. I'm just trying to going to explaining about like what exactly that we have done yesterday. And I'm just trying to setting up the context, what we are going to do in this particular today's session. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, so fine here. See guys, don't worry about the assessment or try to look for the things like how we have to work for these options. Fine, let me try to, yes, the first one. Let me try to explaining about like what we have discussed in yesterday. I'll just quickly recap. So the first thing that we should understanding about like what is Kubernetes, right? So can someone tell me why the Kubernetes is required? What you guys understood? Put your responses in the chat box. After that, we discussed about Kubernetes architecture. Yep. And after that, we discussed about like what is meant by master node. And also we discussing about like what are the components it has. And after that, we discussed about like what is meant by worker node and what are the components, what we can say it is the components it has. So after that, we discussed about something it is called as a keep cutting. What is meant by keep cutting. And we have discussed about like what is meant by imperative style here. That's what exactly will be we yeah. This is what we discuss about like imperative style. And also we discussing about something it is called as a declarative style here. Uh, yeah, this is what exactly we have discussed about like imperative style and declarative style. After that, we start discussing about like what is meant by namespace, how to create namespaces in a both ways like imperative style, and we discussed about like how we can do it in declarative. The method also we have done right. So this is something that we discussed about like yesterday, right? So before I wanted to move on to the next session, I want to understanding about like what is a Kubernetes features, why you guys wanted to go for the Kubernetes. Could you please send it in the chat box your responses? Yeah, I got the couple of responses in the chat box. Gate is a system in which if the container deletes corrupts, then system itself create a content that's make no loss. That's something that you're talking about, like self-healing, but I wanted to understanding about like more on that. There are many features which provide the Kubernetes, right? I'm just trying to understand. Yeah, make it fast, guys. Why you guys are not interacting? Yep. So fine. Let me explaining about like what we are discussing about like in today's session, right? The first thing that we should understanding about like how we can able deploy the applications in the Kubernetes. That's what exactly that we are going to talk about the today's session. The first thing we should understand, how can we, I mean to say, the first thing that we should understand, how can we deploy an application uh, in a Kubernetes. So this is something that we should understanding about like, what is meant by pods here. So I'll talk about like what is meant by pod and why we have to create a pod. What exactly that we can able to do inside the pod, that is we'll discuss about it. After that, we should understanding about like what is the replica set. That is also we'll be discussing about like second point. And after that, we'll be discussing about like what is meant by deployments. This is the third point that we should understanding about like what is deployments. After that, in tomorrow's session, I'm just trying to explaining about like what is meant by services in a Kubernetes. That's what exactly that we can do it in this particular the session right now. The first we should understand that. So how can we deploy the application in Kubernetes? It is nothing but like in a pod. And after that, we'll start discussing about like what is the replica set, because the Kubernetes is going to introduce something. It is called a self-healing feature. So if you have understanding about like what do you mean by self-healing, and you should understanding about like how this Kubernetes is going to achieve this. So before that, you should understanding about like what is the pod limitations. So if the pod goes down, if the really Kubernetes is going to create the new pod or not. If it is not creating a new pod, we should understanding about like what exactly that we can able to perform, or we should understanding about like how exactly that we can able to do that. That's the reason. So we have to go for something it is called as a controllers. We'll see about like how we can able to create a controllers, everything that we're discussing about like so. So whenever you work, whenever you work as a DevOps in any organizations, definitely you should understanding about like how we can able to create the pods, everything. That's what exactly that we are going to discussing about like the very first step, we should understanding about like what is exactly mean by pod here. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a pod. It is nothing but like so whenever we talk about something, it is called as a pod. It is what we can say about like it is nothing but a deployment unit right now. So when I say something, it is called as a deployment unit. it is nothing but like, where exactly you are going to run your application. That's what we should understanding about like what is exactly meant by pod here. You see, it is nothing but like deployment unit. We should understand about like where actually we can say about like you can run the application here. That's what we should understanding about like what is exactly meant by pod here. So we see that it is nothing but like where exactly you can able to run the application. Yeah, that's the reasons we have to understanding about something. It is called as a application here. Let me explaining about like what exactly it contains the pod here right now. If we just go to here, we can. This is nothing but like this is nothing but like you have the pod. So in a pod, we have something it is called as a containers. In a container, we'll be having something it is called as a Docker image. See why we have to maintain the three layers is nothing but like the containers are lightweighter. So or we can say about like containers are we should understanding about like containers are nothing but like lightweighter. So that we have to understanding about like how we can able to manage the sensitivity of the containers. So because if something is goes wrong in the containers, the complete applications goes down. That is the reason we are able to understand how we can able to uh, protect your containers. That's the reasons we should understanding about like how we can able to do that. So first one, this is nothing but like my pod, and after that, this is nothing but like you have the container. Yeah. So this is nothing but like container, and we can say this is what we can say about like Docker image here. This is first we should go with the pod. The second we have to go with the container, and third we have to go for something it is called as a Docker image. This is nothing but like there are three stages that we have. The first one we have to go for the pod. The second one we have to go for something it is called as a container. And inside the container, you are going to use something it is called as a Docker image. This is what exactly that you are going to understanding about like what is exactly this is right now. So fine, let me explaining about like how we can able to do that right now. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a pod. So how you are trying to creating a pod. So whenever you want to work with this, definitely we should understanding about like, we need, yeah. So we just need to understanding about like how we can able to do that. See for that, I just need to first create something. It is called as a cluster here. Let me try to set up a cluster. I can go for the playgrounds. So once you just go with the playground, we have to select the MP environment. Now in that, you mentioned about like what is or how many that require. See that I require the Kubernetes 1.32 two nodes environment with the latest Kubernetes version. Um, I'm just trying to initiating the lab here. Let me try to create the lab. So we'll just wait for it. Yeah, now we can see that like it is setting up the lab here, that my lab, or we can say like, the cluster is got created. So once the cluster is got created, so how we can able to do that? So first, just type the command called as a kubectl get nodes. We should understanding about like how many nodes that we have. See, the one node that we have nothing but control plane. The second node that we have nothing but like worker node, right? So we should understanding about like what is exactly meant by control plane and what is exactly meant by worker machine right now. This is nothing but like, you have the version like, 1.32.1. That is a version that we have. Now here, I want to create a pod. So whenever you want to create a pod, first you just need the Docker image. Like where is the Docker image is got available right now? See if we just go with this options here, the option that we nothing but like we have the hub.docker.com. This is nothing but like my option. Now here, if we just go with the options, like we can see about like how many Docker images I have. Let's say, for example, I have a Docker image. Let's say we can go for the core type and page as an example. This is nothing but like my Docker image. So which I want to deploy right now. Let me show you about like how we can able to deploy this Docker image. The first thing we should understand that how we can able to deploy it, right? So go to here. Let me show you about like first how we can able to create a pod. So whenever you want to create a pod, so how we can able to create a pod? So type the command called kubectl run, and after that we had to mention about like pod name. Let's say the pod name I'm trying to mention about like cart hyphen we can see cart kubectl run. After that we are trying to mention about like cart hyphen app here, and after that what I can do, I just need to mention that there is something it is called as the image name. So what is the image that you wanted to the create it? So what is the image that you want deployed that we should mention about like hyphen image, that image name that we have to mention about like here, the image name. Let's me try to put the image name. You see that the image name is Murali Social 123 and the cart hyphen page here. And after that, we'll try to mention about like example, colon 1.0. This is nothing but like image which I'm trying to deploying it. And after that, what you have to do, you have to mention that what is the port number that you want to do that. Let's say the port number, let's say hyphen port number. See, when you're discussing about like Docker, you might understood about like there is a host port number, there is a container port number. What is exactly meant by container port number? See, the container port number is nothing but like on which port number you are going to run the applications. So whenever you mention about like host port number, is nothing but like on which port number that you're trying to expose application. But here, whatever that you're trying to mention here is nothing but like, on which port number that you are going to run the applications. I just trying to mention about like 3000 is a port number, on which port number that you wanted to run the application. You see that there is a command. The command is nothing but like kubectl run, and we have to mention about like cart type an app here. There is nothing but like my pod name. After that, we have to put something. It is called as a hyphen image. The image name is Murali Social 123 forward slash cart hyphen page hyphen example. And you see about like what is the port number that we mentioned right now, hyphen port. The port number that we mentioned about like 3000 here, right? See, once we hit the enter, we can see like pod creator. See, the fraction of seconds is might not take in the nanoseconds of time also that you are trying to deploy the application inside the pod, right? So if you just type the command called as a kubectl get pods, you see that there is a one pod is got created. See, inside the pod, you have a container, right? So this is nothing but like how many containers that we have, how many containers that you're creating. This is nothing but like what is the container that you are trying to creating inside the pod right now. That's what exactly you are doing right now. You see that like you are trying to creating the, yeah, you are just trying to creating the container. We just need to wait for some time. The container has to be come up right now. So you see that the container that we are trying to creating right now. So I'm just trying to go for it. Get pods right now. You see about like it's showing about like one by one, right? That means inside the pod, there is a one container running status. So how can I able to understand that if the container is got created, right? So let me try to explaining about like, yeah. So how we can able to check that which Docker image got deployed inside the pod. So that's everything that we should understand right now. So let me go for it. I just need to understanding about like how we can able to do that right now. So what I can do that, let me just go to here. I just need to mention about like, this command. Yeah. If we type the command called as a kubectl describe, and we have to mention about like the pod, and what is the pod name? The pod name I'm just trying to mention about like car type an app. After that, so if we describe that, you will understanding about like what exactly it contains the pod right now. That's what exactly that you are trying to do that. So if you just look at my screen, how we can able to do this right now. The first option, if you just go there, you see about like the moment we'll describe this, it is showing about like what is the pod name. The pod name is showing about like pod type an app. And look at the namespace. The namespace is showing about like default. And what is the service account? See, every default, the namespace or whenever you are creating the anything, definitely it contains something. It is called as the namespace. And every namespace is creating one service account. That's what we should understanding about like service account, right? So if we just go to the node, we should understanding about like this is nothing but like my node. And after that, we look at here, there is a port number. Every node has a IP address. See, if we just come down, if we just type the command called as a kubectl get nodes -o wide command. So this command is basically going to provide that how many nodes that we have. And we see that like each and every node, it has something, it is called as a IP address. So you will get the what IP address that we have. So everything that we can able to understand. Right now I have two nodes we have. You see about like which version of the Kubernetes that you install. And you see, this is nothing but like my IP address of these two nodes. The IP address showing about like 172.30.1.2. That is nothing but like one internal IP address. And here we can see about like 172.30.2.2 is nothing but like another internal IP address right now. If you look at the OS, this is nothing but like OS image. And look at the kernel version that what you have done the kernel version right now. This is what exactly that's we are trying to understanding about like what exactly that are going to do that. So this is something that we should understanding about like how we can able to know that like IP address of the pods. So when I'm just coming back here, and you should understanding about like what is what's going on inside the pod. You see that like this is nothing but like my pod name, and you see what is the namespace right now. And also we can see what is the service account, and we can see that node. See this particular pod running on this particular node, right? See, you should understand that. You should understand that, but like who is going to schedule the pod? See, we have something it is called a scheduler. The scheduler is responsible for scheduling a pod on the specific node, right? That's what you are trying to doing right now. If we just look at my screen, this particular pod, it is going to scheduling on this particular node. And you see about like what is the node IP address. It is nothing but like, 172.30.2.2. It is nothing but like, my node IP address, right? And after that, if you look at the annotations, that's fine. Pod will have the IP address. See, you have to understand this. Every pod you are going to get the IP address, and here every container you are going to get the port number. So in Kubernetes, this is what the specialization that you should understand. Whenever we talk about the pod, so pod will get the IP address. If you just go to something, it is called the container. The container, it is going to get something, it is called as a port number. Yep. So that's what we should understanding about like how we can do that. So there is a question in the chat box. When you're creating the multiple container, the port number should be different. Yes, you're correct. See, pod can have the multiple containers, but that is not the use case. Every pod we designed to accommodate a single pod, a single container, because every microservices has a single Docker image. If you want to have the multiple containers in a single pod, there is only one way that we should understand. If there is something, it is called a tightly coupled nature in a pod, then only we can have the multiple containers in a pod. Otherwise, will not encouraging you to have the multiple containers in a single pod. So that's what exactly that we should understanding about like what exactly that we are going to do that. So if you just look at my screen, this is nothing but like pod IP address. And if you just look at here, there is something it is called the container port number. And you see, this is where exactly that we are trying to understanding about like how we can able to do that. Yeah. So if we just go to the same right now. Yeah. If we go to the same, you see about like this is nothing but like port number. And after that, you look what is the container name. See the container name, there is something it is called as a core type of app. And after that, if you come down, you can see about like what is the container ID. See, every container, it will start with the container ID. This is the image that we deployed in this particular container. And after that, we can see about like there is image ID, right? This is nothing but like, image ID. And after that, what we have to do, we have to understanding about like what is the port number. See the port number that we should understanding about like what is a port number. So this works on port number, something it is called as 3000 here, right? So after that, you should understanding about like what is a host port number. the host port number that you're talking about, like 0 here, right? So we did not define about like how we are trying to access or how we are trying to expose the application. That's what we should understand. This is nothing but like this is a port number and the host port number is 0. And what is the state of this particular container? It's showing about like running status. This is when it is started. It started on the Tuesday, 13th May right now. And if you come down, you see about like, this is nothing but like events. So in yesterday's session, you might understood about like components in a master node. We have a scheduler, API server, ATCD, and control manager. In this worker node, you have the kubelet, kube proxy, kind of runtime pods that we have. So you might understood about like what is a components here. See, the moment when you type the command deploy the application, my scheduler will completely understanding about like where I need to schedule a pod. You see that it is going to be scheduled. It is going to be scheduled, and we can see about like from the default scheduler and look at the message. The message you're trying to understanding about like where exactly that you're trying to do this. That's what we should understanding about it. See, you're trying to image name. We should say about like this is nothing but like where it is trying to pull the image. And after that, what we can do that, you are just trying to pull the image. So once image got pulled, it is going to create a container. It is going to start the container. See, in worker node, you might see there is a component called as a kube proxy, right? Sorry, there is a component called the container runtime. See, it is responsible for creating a container, managing the container. That's what exactly it is going to taking care of this particular the containers, right? That's how we should understanding about like what exactly the components that we have. So how we can able to do this. I hope you guys understood this point, right? Clear? So far, anyone have any questions right now? So can I get some responses right now? I got 2 responses. I'm just waiting for other to respond. Yeah. So thank you very much. Who's going to respond to me? That's fine, absolutely. Yep. See, whatever that you are doing manually, this is not how we have to do it in the organizations. So when you are going to be DevOps engineer, it's accurately how accurately that you can able to write the scripts like whatever that you are going to write it here. See, that's where we are going to understanding about something. It is called as a AML files. So AML is what we can say about like ain't markup language, right? So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a ain't markup language. We should understanding about like how we can write the AML files. See, when you work for any organizations as a DevOps engineer, you are responsible for writing all the scripts like whatever that we have. So that's very, very important. So whenever you understanding about like how we can able to write the scripts, the very simple technique, I'm just going to tell you about like how we can able to do that. So first we have to go for these options. Let me show you about like how we can write the manifesto files. See, you have to go to this particular we can say like for example, first let me try to create one folder. I'm going to provide the everything like whatever that you guys needed, okay? I'll go to trainings. In the trainings, I'm just go for the new folder. The folder name, let's say, for example, XLR, Kubernetes, manifests. This is a file. This is a folder which I'm creating. Let me try to load it from here. Yep. So, how we can write the manifesto file? That's what first we try to understand about, right? Uh, how we can write the manifesto files? The first one, if we click on the file name is, let's say, for example, pod.ml file, which I'm creating. See, every ML file, we should understanding about how we can able to write the manifesto files. So whenever you write the Kubernetes manifesto files, there are four components is basically that you are going to understand about it. So what are the four components that we have, or we can say about like four fields that we should understand about right now? The first, what is exactly the field that we are trying to understand? Let me go into explaining about like how we can able to write this particular Kubernetes manifesto files. The first one, whenever I'm just go to here, whenever I'm just going to here, I have to mention about like what is a pod.ml file, right? So in the pod.ml file, first we have to mention about like, the four fields. In the four fields, the first thing that we should understanding about like API version, right? So let me go for the API version. After that, you can go for the kind, write the metadata, and we can go for the spec here. These are the four fields that we have right now. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as the API version. You should understanding about like what do you mean by API version, right? So whenever we talk about the API version, it's nothing but like it defines the skeleton. Yep. It is going to define the skeleton of the object. So what kind of rules it should have? So everything it is going to be checked very clearly about the ABA version, right? So that's what we should understanding about like what is exactly mean by the skeleton, how we are trying to create the skeleton right now. So whenever we talk about something, it is called a skeleton. So how we can able to do that? So whenever we talk about the API version, it's nothing but like defines the skeleton of the object. So whenever you are going to use different rules, if it is rule is not matching, it is going to tell you about like, there is some error. You have to look for the error. That's everything that we should understanding about like how we can able to do that, right? There is reasons we have to go for something. It is called as it defines the skeleton of the objects. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a kind. So what is exactly meant by kind here? See, kind, it is the basically going to defining about like what kind of object that you're trying to creating. So that's what we should understand. What we can see that kind of object that you are creating. So this is also very important. We should understanding about like what kind of object that you are trying to creating. So if you don't know all these fields, it is difficult to write the manifesto files, right? That is the reason we should understanding about like how we can able to write the all the manifesto files. The first one, whenever we mention about like kind, it is nothing but like what kind of object that you're trying to creating. That is the first thing that we should understand. And if you just go for the second option, whenever we talk about something, it is called the metadata. It is all of like you want to assign some names. Okay. See, for example, if you want to assign, yeah, if you want to assign some names for the object, okay, or else let's say for example, if you want to assess some names for the objects, or you want to define some labels for the objects. So how we can able to do that everything, that's where we should understanding about like what is the reason that you're trying to creating something. It is called as a metadata here. So metadata, it is basically, it is all about like how we are trying to creating the how we are trying to creating this particular objects. That is the reasons we should understanding about like what is exactly mean by how we are trying to create in this particular metadata right now. See, metadata, it is all about like the data about data, right? So we should understanding about like what you are trying to doing it right now. So after that, we had to go for the fourth option. The fourth, it is nothing but like something, it is called spec right now. So whenever it defining about like spec, it is nothing but like spec. It is basically it defines. I mean to say it defines the behavior. So behavior of the object. So this four fields, that's very important. We should understanding about like what are the four fields that we have. So how we can able to use this particular four fields. So the first we should understanding about like what is exactly mean by API version. The second thing that we should understanding about like what is mean by kind. And third option we should understanding about like what do you mean by metadata. And after that, the fourth, we should understanding about like what is exactly mean by spec here. So these are the four fields that we have to understand about the everything like whatever that we have right now. Okay. So I hope you guys are clear these options, right? Can I get some responses? Yep. I got some responses in the chat, right? The clear. So let's go ahead and I'll try to write the scripts like what you have to do that. The first we have to understanding about like API version, right? See, it is a case sensitive. Basically, it is not about the, it's a case sensitive. We should understanding about like how we can able to do that case sensitive right now. So the first thing that we should understanding about like how we can able to write it. Uh, um, 1 second. Yep. So, sorry, there's the first thing that we should understanding about like what exactly it is right now. So, whenever we talk about something, it is called as the API version. The first, it is a case sensitive. So, when you talk about like something, it is called API. And after that, we should understanding about like what is exactly mean by version, right? So whenever we talk about the version, it is nothing but like what kind of object that you're trying to creating. So when you talk about like API version, we mentioned about is this, it is going to define the skeleton of the object, right? That is the reasons we should understanding about like what is exactly meant by skeleton of the object. That's what we should understanding about right now. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as the API version. It is nothing but like, defines what kind of object that you're trying to creating. See, your very first time, you don't know about like how to do that everything. So for example, if you just go to your location right now, so there is a reference document that we have. The reference nothing but like Kubernetes API reference documentations. See here, you have to put like which version that you are trying to using. Let's say, for example, are you using the version v.3.1? That is the version that you are trying to creating. You see that you have to get the documentations, and we should understanding about like how we can able to do that right now. So that's where we should understanding about like how we can able to write this particular the files. So we should understanding about like how we can able to do that. So the first thing that we should understanding about like how we can able to do that, right? So for example, you're trying to creating a pod. So you have to go for this location, this file. If you try to search for the pod, hit the enter, you can just look at this particular reference documentation. In that, you have to mainly observe these options right now. There is something it is called as a version is a V1. The kind it is showing about like, the pod here. Yeah, that's what exactly that we are going to do this right now. So whenever I just talk about something, it is called as a pod here. This is nothing but like version is a V1, the kind we are trying to creating the pod here, right? That's exactly that we are going to do that right now. So whenever we talk about something, it is right now. So the first, yeah. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a pod here. We had to mention about like version it's a V1, the kind we had to put something, it is called as a pod here. After that, I can write something, it is called as a kind here. In the kind, first we have to use something, it is called as a capital letter, right? So whenever you write something, it is called as a capital letter, we have to go for the capital P and we have to go for the pod. See, it is first letter should be capital letter, right? That's exactly we have to understanding about like, yeah. This is exactly that we should understanding about like how we can able to do that, right? So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a kind pod. We can look at my screen. This is something that we are trying to go with something. It is called as a pod. So once the pod is got created, we should understanding about like how the pod getting right now. So whenever you're trying to create in the pod, so we should understanding about like how we can able to write the other fields here. When I have to write something, it is called the metadata. See, we don't need to write all these things. I'll tell you about like how we can able to create templates. But before you're trying to create a template, we should understanding about like, how we can able to do this. Let's say, yeah. So first, I'm just need to mention about like what is the name of the pod here. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as a options right now. When we just go for it, that first we have to mention about like what is the name of this particular pod. So here we have to give two spaces right now. If I'm just trying to mention about like name here, what is the name? So whenever we go with this option called as the name here, the name of the pod, let's say, for example, I'm going to mention about like sample pod. That is the name which I'm trying to mention right now. So once you are trying to mention about like what is the name, after that, we have to defining about like spec. So this is fine. You defining about like API version, you defining about like kind. After that, you're defining about something. It is called as a metadata. That everything that we are trying to creating right now. That's where we should understanding about like how we can able to create the metadata. Also, we can understanding about like how we can able to create this the options like whatever that we required. So let me go ahead. I'm just trying to explaining about like how we can able to define the spec. See, we know that like inside the pod, you have something, it is called as a containers. We can see that we have to understanding about like in a container, we should understanding about like what exactly it is contains here. So whenever we talk about something, it is called as the container. So we should understanding about like where exactly and how we can able to run the container. So we have to defining something, it is called spec here. Inside the spec, we have to create something, it is called the containers. So this is nothing but like containers. In a container, we have to understanding about like what is the image that you want to run here. So I'm just go for the image. See the image like whatever that you have. See the first whenever I define the multiple values, it has to start with the hyphen. After that, we have to mention about like what is the name of the country. It is not like you have to keep first name after that image. It doesn't look like, you know, you can able to create like what you can able to mention whatever that you require. So we have to mention about like what is the name. So we should mention about like what is the name of the container. So I can the first make you understanding about like how we can able to create this particular the name of the container, right? So the first I have to go there. I'm just trying to mention about like what is the name of the container. So let me go ahead. I'm trying to mention about like what is the name of the container, right? So name, let's for example, I'm going to mention about like cart hyphen app. That is the container name. After that, we have to go ahead and we mention about like what is the image that you have deployed inside the container. See the image name, we have taken the same image I'm taking here. If we just go to here, yeah, this is the image that I'm just going to taking right. Yeah. After that, we have to defining about like container port number. So what is the port number that you wanted to deploy? So we had defining about like ports, right? So if you mention about like ports, go to here, hit the enter, I can just go for the container port number. So because we should understanding about like what is the port numbers. These are the port numbers that we have right now. So it works on the port number 3000. So I'm trying to the mentioning about like port number is something it is called as a 3000 is a port number. That is how we should understanding about like how we can able to create the port numbers. This is way we just need to understanding about like how we can able to do this particular port numbers, right? That's what we should understanding about like how we can able to write these particular applications here. So I hope you guys are the clear right now. So anyone have any questions here? I got one response. What about others? Could you please let me know? Yeah, it is something that we should understanding about like what is meant by declarative method. So how we can able to do that? We can't skip the metadata. We have to mention about the all the fields like whatever that we have here. You can see that like I mentioned about the API version, the kind, and after that we defining about like metadata, and we can see about like sample pod here. So once we have done this particular sample pod, I can just look at here. So what we mentioned about it, we mentioned about the containers. We can see about like the containers. The name of the container is showing about like car type on app. The image we see about like what is the image? The image is multi social 123. Car type and page type an example, and we can see about like 1.0. That is the image that we have, and we can see about like port numbers. what is the port number that you're trying to creating. The port number we can see about like something it is called the 3000 is the port number, right? That's how we are trying to creating here. This is where we should understanding about like how we can able to create the deployment. Let me show you about like how we can able to deploy this inside the what we can say in the cluster. The first we have to save it right now, and after that what I can do, I have to go there. Let me just go to this terminal. Yep. Fan is. Yeah. So now here, the first I have to push the code. So how we can able to push the code? Let me explaining about like that part. The first part, we have to first type the command called git init command. You have to initialize the repository. See, after that, what we can do that, I have to type the command called git add dot here. You are just going to add all the files. And after that, we have to use the command called git commit hyphen name. Let's say here we have to mention about like committed here. That means we should understanding about like how we are going to commit the files, right? Yeah, just hit the enter. So what is exactly mean by hit the enter? There's nothing but like, so how we can able to do that? Yeah. So yeah. So now we have to push this particular image. If we just look at these options right now, we have to push the files, right? So how we can able to push the code right now? So if we just look at master, if we click on the publish here, you see we have to publish as a public repository right now. Yeah. If we just look, it successfully got published the repository. So we are trying to get the repository in the GitHub. So I'm just trying to go with the GitHub right now. Hit the enter. Go to repositories here. This is nothing but like, XLR Kubernetes manifesto files. So I have to go with the URL. We have to copy this. Now here we have to clone this, okay? So type the command called git clone. Hit the enter. We have to paste the URL. So you are just trying to clone in this particular entire the repository. That's what we are trying to doing it right now. Yep. So if you just type the ls command, you see about like there is a the repo that we have cloned it. So we have to go to inside this repo here, right? So now if you type the ls command, you see there is something, it is called as a pod.ml file that we have. So if you just look at my screen, I have to go for these options right now. So so we just need to understanding about like how we can able to do that, right? So we just need to we have the pod.ml file. So let me show you about like how we can able to do that, right? So the moment when you just look at my screen, if you just type the command called kubectl, okay, and apply. After that, we have to go for the apply -m. See, whenever you want to deploy any ML file in this particular the repo or in this particular cluster, then basically we should understanding about like how we can able to deploy it is. So type the command called kubectl apply -f. And after that, what we had to do that, we had to mention about like the ML file name. See, the ML file is nothing but like pod.ml file. That's what exactly that we are going to do that. So whenever you're trying to mention this particular the ML file, you see about like pod.yaml file. Once you hit the enter, you see that there is something it is called the invalid value. So why it is showing about like invalid value means I explained clearly it is a case sensitive. You should not use something it is called capital letters because it is you are violating the policies. So we have to go for these options right now, sample -pod. So after that, what we can do that, you're just trying to push the code. So you had to first add the changes. After that, you're trying to commit the changes. You have the committed right now. Yeah. And after that, we had to type the command called git push and go for the command name. It is called as the origin. Yep, git origin. We had to mention the command called master here. You see, you're trying to add it. You're trying to committing it. You're trying to push the changes, right? So if I try to click on the synchronous changes, all the changes will be synced there. So after that, we can do the command called as a git pull command. See, I am trying to pull the changes, whatever which we have done. This is how we have to do that. So you're trying to pull the changes, whatever that we have. After that, you are just going to deploy this particular file. We can see that the pod is getting created. So if you look at my screen, this is nothing but like how the pod is getting created. So once you just created a pod, if you type the command called as a kubectl and get pods here, you can look at my screen. I have the pod. The pod name, we can see that like, there is a pod. The pod name is, we have to mention that it is nothing but like, sample -pod. It's showing about like pending status. See, whenever you are getting something, it is called pending status. You should be understanding about like how we can able to resolve these issues. See, Kubernetes is all about like troubleshooting. You deploy the applications, right? So how you want to troubleshoot it? If you just go to here, yep. If you type the command called as a kubectl, describe, and if you just go with the pod name. The pod name, I'm just trying to mention about like, the sample -pod. That's what we are trying to doing it right now. So once we hit the enter, we can just look at my screen. We're just trying to describe the pod, understanding about like what exactly is happening in the pod. So why the pod is not coming to the status called as a running status. See, you have to identify these events. You can see it's showing about like pending status, by it's showing about like none of the logs, right? If we type the command called get pods right now, you see that there is a pods that we have. So you have something it is called as a pods. There is a sample -pod. There is something it is called as a, there is something that we should understanding about like what are the pods that we have right now. So let me just wait for to get the response from my terminal. Yep. So now here, if we just go there, if you type the command called kubectl logs pod and pod name, let's say sample -pod, that is nothing but like my pod name. I'm just trying to paste it, hit the enter. We can see that pod is not found in the default names. 1 second. And I'm just trying to check the logs here. The log name is, we can see about like, it is showing about like top command, right? Stop is not the command. So here you wanted to check the resources. We should understanding about like how we can able to do that. So whenever you check the logs, you'll understanding about like what is exactly happening inside this particular pod here. See, when the something it is not coming up as per the expectations, definitely we should understanding about like how we can do that. So the command, we can see that kubectl logs Yep, the kubectl logs and pod. And we can see about like the pod name. The pod name is sample-pod. This is the command. We can see like, okay. So it's showing about like pods, not pod actually. Yep. So pod is not found in the namespaces. So we can see about like it's showing about like there is no pod. It is found in this namespaces. That's what exactly it is going to tell you about it. So I'm just trying to type the command called as a kubectl. And after that, we have to use the command called as a logs here, pod, and the pod name, let's say I'll go for the sample-pod. This is nothing but like the pod that we have. You can see that it is not able to find in this particular default namespaces, or else if you just go to here, if you type the command called as a cart, we can see cart-app here. We can just look at my screen. It is going to tell you about like what's happening right now. So it is not able to identify any pods that we have, and it is not giving any response to your request. That's what basically it is giving right now. Okay, that's fine. If you just go to here, so let me try it this way here. If I type the command called as a kubectl logs here, the pod name, let's for example, I'm going to mentioning about like, sample, we can see about like pod here. So once we hit the enter, we can see that you logs, it is showing about like nothing. See, you should understand that why it is not giving any logs here. So if I'm just trying to clear my screen, you see that if you type the command called logs and log name, the pod name that you mentioned about the sample-pod, you can see it's showing about like, no logs. Even if I'm going to describe the pod to understanding about like the events inside the pod, you see it is not showing about like any events here. So in this case, how we are trying to debug, or you should understanding about like how we can able to fix the problem. So this is not actual cluster. That is the reason you might not see, for example, let's say, for example, I'm trying to mention about like, the test, that is a pod name which I'm creating. And after that, what we have to do that, I'm just trying to push it. I'm trying to pull it. And after that, we have to go for this. I'm just trying to use the command called as a git pull command. You are just pulling all the changes like whatever that we required. And if you type the command called kubectl apply -f, and after that we have to go with the pod.yml file which you are trying to create it. You see that test-pod is getting created. But if you type the command called get pods, you see that what exactly it is happening right now. So the container creating right now. So that means your server is up and running. All the containers are, it is trying to creating right now. That's what exactly you are doing it. Let me just wait for some time. We see about like what exactly it's happening. It is trying to creating a containers, right? So let me just wait for some time. All the pods are running right now. So here, this is how that we are trying to creating a pod, and we have to understanding about like how we can able to deploy the application inside the Kubernetes options. So is it clear right now? Yeah. So now here, the problem that we should understand here. What is the problem that we have here? Let's say, for example, if the pod goes down, if we type the command called keep, I'm only deleting the pod. If you just have the command called kubectl, delete pod, the pod name, let's say I'm trying to deleting this particular car type, and we can see app here. See, I'm deleting the pod here. So once you delete the pod, let's see what's going to be happening right now. So whenever you are trying deleting the pod, so we should understanding about like what is the problem. that you are going to face. So this is a task for you guys. Before coming for tomorrow's session, please try to let me know what problems that you are having when the pod goes down. And after that, I'll continue from there. Okay. So I have some client meeting right now by 8:30. I had to prepare the meeting for that. So Sushmita, are you there in the meeting? Sushmita, any from the XLR team? Fine, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. If you look at my screen, if you type the command called keep curtail, get pods, you see that one pod is goes down here. There is no pod called as a cart-app here. We have the sample-pod and we have test-pod. So if the pod goes down, what are the challenges that we are trying to get in? That's what you guys have to do some research and get back the tomorrow session. Okay. So thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Once again, I'll call the Sushmita and I'll try to inform her. Sushmita. So she's going to send attendance sheet. You guys can able to mark the attendance over there. See, we should understanding about like there might be some challenges, right? So what are the challenges that we have and how we can able to understanding about like the challenges? You see that when we're discussing about like Kubernetes, yeah. So we should understanding about like, how we can able to do that, right? See, when you're just understanding about like Kubernetes, it is going to provide something it is called as, yeah. It is going to provide something it is called as a self-healing feature. See, as per your understanding, whenever we talk about something, it is called self-healing. What is exactly self-healing right now? So whenever we talk about something, it is called self-healing. So whenever anything goes down, we should understanding about like how we can able to recreate it, right? That's where we should understanding about like self-healing. See, if the pod goes down, it has to recreate a new pod. That's a fantastic thing that we should understand about it. But here, when the pod goes down, we should understanding about like, the Kubernetes is not creating a new pod here. If you look at my screen, my pod is gone. There is no new pod name called as a cart-app. But where is the justifications where the Kubernetes is going to provide where the Kubernetes is going to provide this particular option right now? That is the reasons we should understanding about like how we can able to understand the pod limitations. When you say something, it is called pod limitations is nothing but like, if the pod goes down, uh, challenges, what are the challenges that we have that we should understanding about like the first option here. The first challenges that whatever that we happen, the first challenge is nothing but like when the pod goes down, the application goes down. We should understand the application is a goes down. That's what we should understanding about like what are the challenges that we have. The second option that we have something it is called as a if the pod goes down, yeah. If the pod goes down, the IP address will change. That means we should understand about like, the IP is not constant. And third option that we should understand, if the pod goes down, the IP address will change. If the pod is not constant, the IP address is not constant. The second one, what are the data that we have? What are the data it has? We are going to lose the data. That is also one of the challenges that we should understanding about, like, so what exactly that we can understanding about like the pod, the challenges, everything, right? So that's what exactly that we should understanding about like these challenges that with what we have in this particular pod here. So if you want to overcome that, so how we can able to overcome that? That's where we should understanding about like what is exactly how we can able to do that. So if you want to overcome these particular options right now, the first one, we have to attach controllers. We have to attach the controllers. If the pod goes down, you want to recreate the new pod. Definitely we need the controllers here. If you don't want to change the IP address, we have to create something. It is called services. These services, it is going to create, yeah, the services will create a new static IP address. Okay. And if you don't want to lost your data, you wanted to you wanted to make sure the data is going to be stored. We have to create something, it is called the volumes. This is nothing but like, the 3 points that we have, we should understanding about like what exactly 3 points that we have right now. Yes. Clear these points? Yep. So I see that you guys are responding, and I can see that you have, yes, sir. If we have any questions right now, so for whatever we discussed, could you please put it in the chat box? It is not complex that you should understand the concept, you should understand how to write it. Because once you understood about very clear cut the Docker, what is the purpose, what is the microservices, it is easy to understanding about like Kubernetes. See, Kubernetes is one of the toughest topic. I can say that. I'm just going to provide the documentations, everything. You guys can able to refer those documentations so that it is easy for you to do that part. Yeah. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next session, guys. Yeah. Tomorrow I'll come. I'll start explaining about like what is a replica set, what is deployments, and also we'll start discussing about like services is nothing but like how we are trying to expose the applications, because those things are very very important. See, whenever we talk about something, it is called as a replica set. We should understanding about like how we are trying to expose the applications, or if one pod goes down, how it is going to recreate new pod. Everything that we should understanding about the replica set. And the third one is nothing but like, why we have to go with the deployments. So whenever you want to perform the rollout and rollback operations, we have to go for deployments. That is the second option. After that, we have to go for the services. That's where we should understanding about like, all these options like one by one. Yeah. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you tomorrow sessions.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We'll meet again by tomorrow. So, students, as sir informed, like today we are winding up the session at 8:30 because sir has some emergency work. That's the reason. So, I hope you all mark your attendance. Let me share attendance link once again on the chat, and I will wait for 5 minutes. Okay, please mark your attendance before that, or else just keep the attendance link with you guys so that you can mark it later, like before 9:30 as well. Yeah. So I will wait for 5 minutes, then we will wind up. Kindly mark your attendance and drop the session. If you are done with the attendance, you can drop the session.